My name is Peter Melnycky. I first became familiar with the topic of internment when I read about a mass breakout of internees from the internment camp at Brandon, Manitoba, when I was 19 years old. We're currently at the location of the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. On the grounds of the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba were the Osborne barracks, where enemy internees were gathered and then sent on towards other internment camps. I had an interest in history from an early age, and when I was 19 years old, I had a chance to work for something called the Opportunities for Youth program that was sponsored by the Government of Canada. And I did field work in the history of Ukrainian Canadians, part of which took place in Brandon, Manitoba. And while I was in Brandon, Manitoba, I found some old issues of the Brandon Sun newspaper that talked about the escape attempts by Ukrainians from the internment camp. I was deeply moved by the fact that a young person, roughly my own age, was killed. And since that time, I've been dedicated to tell something about the human face of history, about the history of internment in Canada during the First World War. One of the people who was imprisoned was named William Perchiluk. He was subsequently sent to the internment camp at Castle Mountain, Banff. And from there, he was paroled to work for the Canmore Coal Company. He worked for the Canmore Coal Company and then subsequently enlisted with the 211th Battalion of the Canadian Expeditionary Force. Before the day that they shipped off to Europe, it was discovered that he was in fact an enemy alien. He was arrested, he was put into the Calgary Police Department, and the following day he was found hanging from a piece of his uniform, which is called a putty. He was so depressed by the prospect of going back into the camps, in spite of the fact that all he wanted to do was enlist in the military of the country that he had adopted as his own. I think that today we are so sensitive to our sense of personal rights and liberties that we would have had a very difficult time digesting the limits that were placed on these people for no other reason than they came from a country that was at war with Canada. Every generation, I think, has to face their own situations in the world, global situations. I think that in Canada today, we're faced with issues about security and foreigners, and the government has to look at those issues, and they have to do it in a very sensitive way so that they don't make the same sort of mistakes that were made